The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Feeling your body close to mine. I'm not ready to let you go.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Stage Door Show. Tonight my guest is a multi-platinum artist, writer, producer, and fellow Minnesota native, I might add. Please welcome to the show, RL. RL, thanks for joining me tonight, man.
Hey, man, thank you for having me, man. It feels good. Some little home cooking love. What's going on with you, man?
Man, I hear you, man. I miss Minnesota, but, speaking of that, as I mentioned, you and I both grew up in the music-rich city of Minneapolis. We had Prince, The Time, Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, you guys, Next, and you performed in some of those iconic venues there. And talk about the music scene in Minneapolis back then, and, did this help you become inspired to get into the music business years ago?
Well, it's funny, it did, but it's also because, it was a necessity to find other ways to listen to music, so we made it. Because really, there was one station, community station, before the city grew and we got more stations. But it was one station, and they played gospel, R&B, reggae, everything, local artists. So the community regular radio shows. So we had one place to really get music. So we were inundated with all different types. So you had to find inspiration in things that you probably wouldn't have usually listened to, because it is a big metropolitan city. But coming up, there was one station. You know what I'm saying? But also, it's funny, we talk about Minnesota, but Prince has indirectly affected me so much in my career. My mother grew up with him, and I know a lot of people say stuff like, I grew up with RL, or I grew up with this person, and I have no idea who they are. I literally met Prince, and when I did, I was trying to talk to him and explain to him who I was, and he looked at me and he said, I know exactly who you are. You're Tony's son. And I was like, whoa. So Mom was telling the truth. But, I mean, the richness was instrumentation, live music, and you really had to have your chops to perform live, because we had all these iconic venues like the Fine Line, First Avenue and things like that. So I think that it gave us an advantage, so that by the time we reached the rest of the world, we were already somewhat seasoned, because it's tough crowds back home. Even further, I'll say this. When we first got discovered, it was originally by Lance and Proc T from the group Low Key, which were signed to Jimmy and Terry. So they would sneak us out to Flight Time when I was in high school, and it would be the middle of the night, so I'd literally have to do my homework in the lounge at Flight Time. We just knew that Jimmy and Terry were going to sign us, and they didn't. We auditioned for them, and for about 25 years, and I've been in the industry 23, so even before I was in the industry, I had a chip on my shoulder, because I thought that Jimmy and him didn't think I was good enough. Well, I found out literally a few months ago the real reason behind that. But, yeah, we were doing these demos, and a lot of the demos made the first album, you know what I'm saying, like Sexitude and Cozy. We did Cozy a little bit later, but like Sexitude and Phone Sex from the first album, we had done with Lance and Prop T in Mid-America, downtown Minneapolis. And we were doing all these records, and all of a sudden, we had a show on a Friday night at Glam Slam, opening up for Aaliyah, and then come to find out, Naughty by Nature had a show Saturday night at First Avenue. So the guys were running late to soundcheck because they're at the Mall of America getting wardrobe, and come to find out they had ran into KG and gave him our demo. Well, they finally get to the show. We do the show with Aaliyah, and the next day we go to the Naughty concert. I don't get to meet Naughty because we're just in the audience. But Brother Jules, who was the DJ for New Power Generation and a great, a legend in Minnesota in his own right, was on the tour bus with KG, and KG's asking him about, what talented groups are out there in the Midwest. He was restarting his label, and Brother Jules looks down and sees our demo tape on the table and says, that's all you need to know right there. KG picks it up and puts it in his pocket. Literally a week or two later, he flies us out to New York. We go to the Apollo, watch this amazing concert with all these hip-hop legends, and then the following day, he has a party in his backyard, which is first annual Boogie Land. Make a long story short, all of a sudden he signs us. We're out there. We run out of our budget. So we had stayed in the hotel. We thinking we're big wigs. We run out of our recording budget. And now we're staying at KG's back house on air mattresses along with Jaheim sleeping on the floor. What's crazy is it became a blessing because Kay would come in the morning and start producing. And I'm an early riser. Even to this day, I would come down while everybody sleep and sit and just write and learn. And I learned so much from Kay that I'm implementing the lessons that I learned to this day. So that's how I hone my skills even more. So I give Kay a lot of credit, and I give Prof T from Low Key, because truthfully, I was a rapper first. I had a record deal offer as a rapper because Ann Nesby had taken us to Illinois with her, and we did a talent show, and the guy from Maverick Records, which was Madonna's label, wanted to sign me as a rapper before we made it as singers.
You know, RL, you're one of the hardest working people in the business. People who know you know this about you, and even people who don't know you, know that you're such a hard worker. Whether it's writing, recording, or producing. You even said once in an interview that you prefer to stay back when people were going out to the clubs instead of going with them, to stay back and continue writing and learning the craft. Has this always been a part of your DNA to keep learning and creating?
Yes, it's funny because I've never liked crowds, but I don't like crowds because you can't please everybody. Say we're in a crowded room and you're talking to me, and all of a sudden somebody else started speaking to me, and I have to start talking to them now, and that's disrespectful to your time because me and you were conversing first. And I always felt like I'm pulled in every different direction, and I can't give the proper attention to anybody needed. So I continued to focus on the one thing that I could control, and that was creating. It's funny because I lost a lot of girlfriends coming up, and they ended up with like me, but then start talking to one of my group members because I wasn't the fun one. I was in the room with the heat on 85, watching reruns of Law and Order or Forensic Files because I knew that I had to take care of my voice and I had to hit those high notes on stage the next night. So there were certain sacrifices that I was willing to make. Even now, anybody that's around me or deals with me, I've grown up on an itinerary. So I get up at 4:30 in the morning. It's almost military how I do things, lay my clothes out and things like that, because I grew up with a piece of paper saying this is what time you have to be here, tour bus is here, flight this. So my life is still like that, which is crazy. I feel bad for some of the people that are closest to me, but I can't control it. That's all I've ever known. And I feel like when you're blessed and you're put in a position to do something that you've dreamed of, you owe it to God and to everybody that has uplifted you to continue and stay focused. So that's why I continue to work as hard as I do, because I feel like there's always somebody watching that sacrificed for me, or there's somebody watching that's inspired by me.
I guess what's the one thing as an artist, what drives you more than anything else?
I was there's this app called Clubhouse, and I was in the app, and I go in and listen to new artists because it inspires me. They're hungry, and they were asking them, why they wanted to make it, and they were saying stuff like, car for themselves, a house for their mom, and things like that. And I'm like, you're lying. I'm like, what makes you want to get this music out is because you're in the studio, you're in this room working your tail off, and you know that it just takes one person to hear this. If the right person heard this record, I know there's at least 1 million people that like this like I like it. And you just want the right person to hear it. Being able to work with incredible artists, legendary artists, Jamie Foxx, Keith Sweat, Luther Vandross, and even today's artists like Lil Duval and Ty Dolla $ign. And now me and my partner, B-Flat, have the next single on Jeezy's album featuring Demi Lovato and Lil Duval. Just being able to continue to evolve where people are like, wait a minute, you wrote and co-produced that? Are you serious? The old man still got a few tricks up his sleeve. I want to continue to show that God isn't finished with me yet, and I continue to hone my skills to be even better now than I was before. So that's what drives me. I could easily live off of the things that I've done in the past, but if you came to my home right now, besides in my studio, you wouldn't see one award, because that stuff, it matters in a way. One day I'll look back at it, I'll be telling somebody at the old folks home, like, look, I got this. You know about me. Have you ever heard of this? But right now, I want more. I'm greedy. I want more. I want more of because I know that God's blessings are infinite. I want more. I want more awards. I want more music on the radio. I want more people to know my name and to know my work. So I'm going to continue to work as hard as I can until I can't anymore.
I think you kind of answered my next question, but we have a lot of independent artists that are on our show that maybe aren't represented by managers, by PR firms, anything like that. But what piece of advice, what's main piece of advice would you give to any artist out there just starting out in this business? Because this business, as you know, is a tough business, and somebody just starting out can get eaten alive if they don't do it the right way. So what's the biggest piece of advice you could give somebody just starting out?
It's going to surprise you, and I'll say it and I'll explain why. My biggest piece of advice is to shut up. And what I mean by that is I can be in a room with an Uber driver, an engineer, a food delivery guy, heck, a secretary, and a new artist. But I know to be quiet. Even though I'm the veteran in there that has been through a lot, I don't know everything. And I want to learn as much as I can from as many people as I can so I can be the best that I can. So be a sponge. Listen to everybody, because I see so many people in different places and they see somebody and they go, oh, they're not in a position to help me, so I don't have time for them, or I don't have to respect them or deal with them. Do you know how many people in this industry that I met in a mailroom that are running labels now, that were the gopher going to get my lunch, that can press a button right now to give me an opportunity to bless me and my family? You never know who somebody is or who they're going to be. So you have to be able to just observe and learn from your environment and whoever's around you, because a lot of these songs that I write or come up with, they're not always about me. Yeah, I've had my heartbreak. Yeah, heck, even with Too Close. Yes, I've been aroused on the dance floor. But truthfully, a lot of this music comes from inspiration from others and seeing what they're going through and just observing. So sometimes if you can just sit back and be quiet and watch, you'll learn more than you ever could have imagined.
Yeah, it's funny you should say it. You said exactly the same words as Chris Kirkpatrick from NSYNC. We had him on the show recently, and he said that treating the record, the recording studio receptionist the same way as you would the executive. He said you got to do the same thing with everybody that you meet, because you see the same people on the way back down that you saw on the way back up many times. Yeah, with COVID still a concern, RL, artists have had to shift kind of the way they get themselves out there without the benefit of having live shows. As we all know, we can't do that live right now. But has this allowed you more time to concentrate on connecting more with, like, on a personal level with your fan base or maybe social media?
It's crazy, because I've always told people the hardest thing for my era of music is we have a disconnect with how we can get our new music to our core fans. Now, of course, you want new fans, and there are, there's always exceptions to the rule. But truthfully, a lot of my original fan base doesn't even know how to get our new music. They're not necessarily streaming per se, and there aren't record stores like that. Heck, if you buy a new vehicle, there's probably not a CD player in there. So the power goes to the DJs and the streaming and things of that nature. But what this pandemic did was sit people down. A lot of times they didn't have time to search out their favorite artists from yesteryear because they had to work and they had to get the kids ready for school and they had all these other things to do. Now a lot of them are working from home and they have a little more free time. So what we've done is we've taken this huge negative pandemic and tried to find the positives in them and try to find ways to reach out to people. And a lot of times the music is therapeutic for them, and they're able to rediscover artists that they've loved. They go, oh wait, they got something new, or they're still doing it. And it's given us not necessarily an advantage, but given a lot of artists from my era a platform again to where we're being seen and heard, which is a beautiful thing. Out of all the negativity, again, if you ask me, I would trade all of that extra press and all that in for all the lives that were lost. But we have to be resourceful and learn to take the negative and find the positives in it.
You have all the streaming platforms. I mean, as an artist, you have to market yourself in a way that people are going to want to listen to you as well. I mean, there's thousands, millions, I would even say, of people out there that have aspirations of being a musician, and they put their stuff on a streaming platform, and it doesn't stop right there. I mean, talk about the marketing of the importance of marketing your music once it's up on a streaming platform. I mean, using social media and other platforms. I mean, what's the importance of the marketing once you get to that point?
Well, truthfully, creating the art is just one part of it. You have to sell yourself, and that's not necessarily your appearance or anything like that, but you have to find ways to get new people to be your audience. And some of that's good music, but nowadays, and I feel bad for a lot of these artists, these newer artists, it's so oversaturated. You just have to be different. And what I mean by that is be yourself. Don't listen to the radio and study that, because it's not about what's on the radio now. It's about what you're creating that can be on the radio next. And I think that when you market yourself, you have to be true to who you are. Think of this. I've been singing these same records for 20-some years, right? What if somebody had given me these records and it wasn't something I believed in, it wasn't my art or any of that? I would be miserable on stage. But luckily, even some days that I'm tired and I'm feeling a certain way, or, I'm arguing with my girl or anything, I'm under the weather, I can still get up there and sing records that I really stand behind. So it's not marketing me in a way that's not true to who I am. So yeah, there's sacrifices you have to make, and if you're rough around the edges, you'll have to, clean that up a little bit. But truthfully, marketing for me is really just magnifying who you are, because that's all success is going to do. So you have to find ways to magnify who you are so more people can see you, because if you're dope and more people can witness your dopeness, you're your biggest marketing and promotions person right there.
Exactly. You can have the biggest PR firm, and if you don't be true to yourself, you're not going to attract the people you want to attract. I've always said that, and I think that's very well said. We want to talk about your EP, The Letter J, and there's 4 tracks on there. Whatever you need, Get to You, I Do, and When Did Love, and talk about that, because the name The Letter J, where did that come from?
It came from the fact that I sampled John B, Jodeci twice, of course, and Janet. I wasn't going to put out any new music at the moment. We were working on the Next by Nature project, which is Next and Naughty, which is probably going to be the farewell next project. We'd still tour and do things like that, and maybe a few side projects, but everybody was doing their own thing. And my production partner was like, listen, man, you have all this great music. People need to hear some of this. Let's have some fun. So we put together the 4 records, and I really wanted to pay homage to people I really respect. I always felt like John B was like my generation's Michael McDonald or Kenny Loggins, which way you want to go. Jodeci was like our blueprint besides Boys to Men and Commission. And, of course, Jimmy and Terry did the Janet record. So what's funny about the thing with the Janet record, and it's just crazy. I'm smiling telling you this. So if you remember earlier in the interview, I told you that I had a chip on my shoulder for about 25 years. So I put this EP out for free. It was almost like my flowers on the first date. I wanted to re-impress people and show them that I'm still here because I have other music on the way. So it was almost like, here's my thank you, and here's a demo, basically. Here's, 4 records for free just to show you, look, I still got a little something to offer. Well, we didn't get clearance. We gave it away for free. Didn't have to. So all of a sudden I get a DM from Jimmy Jam. I'm like, uh-oh, the Godfather's mad at me. And he's basically telling me how proud he is of me and how the record sounds amazing. And I'm like, wow. And what's crazy is I started following him, and he texts me, I text Terry. And, they were my idols, you know what I'm saying? They're from where we're from. I looked up to them. Prince was dope, but he was rock to me. I love Prince, but he was rock.
Right.
Jimmy and Terry, I feel like they had the suits with the glasses on, the hats. They had all the girls, right? I'm like, man, they're just amazing. So I wanted to be like them. Well, I come in on a IG Live that Jimmy's doing, and he sees I'm in there and stops his interview and for 5 minutes starts talking about me. First thing he says is, he mentions The Best Man. Now, the Best Man record that I did with Genuine, Tyrese, and Case, I was nervous because I was the only guy in the group, and I think the only thing I had done besides that was like Deborah Cox. I hadn't done anything outside of the guys. So I wasn't used to being in the studio without my brothers. So I'm in there, and I'm coaching them. That whole, this is for my brothers in the hood and the high rises and the matches with the maids. All that I made up. That whole ending, brother, I made all that up because I'm going 100 miles an hour trying to impress Jimmy and Terry to show them that they made a mistake in not signing me. So Jimmy starts talking about how he noticed how I was vocal coaching and being a cheerleader, how I was willing to sing my part first, because a lot of times egos will come into play, and they'll be like, I'm not singing first. I was like, whatever y'all need me to do, I'm going to do. I'm the one guy in the group. You guys are solo artists, superstars, whatever I got to do. He starts talking about how I was the glue that kept the song together. All these amazing things. But that's not even the big thing. He goes, I did him a favor. So I'm listening. I'm like, what? He goes, we were in a real messed up label situation. And those guys auditioned for us, but we didn't sign them because we knew that the label situation wouldn't have been good for them. So we saved them knowing that they would go somewhere else and get a better opportunity. Now remember, for 20-something years, I'm thinking, you thought I wasn't good enough. I literally was watching this interview with tears rolling down my face like I was about 11 years old.
Like validation.
Exactly. And those were the two people I needed validation from. Like, honestly, after God, it was Jimmy and Terry. So that's the power of music, and it's the power of somebody believing in you or having fuel to go. So all of these new artists out there that are listening to this, that are frustrated and you want to give up, you can't, because you love it. Listen, I could stop right now with my discography and my publishing, but I'm literally doing this interview sitting in my studio in front of an open session because I can't stop. Neither can you. You love this.
Yeah.
So why not continue to try to make a living doing something that you would do for free anyway? If this is truly your passion and this is really what you want, you can't stop.
No, that's so well said, man. I'm the same way. I'm getting choked up just even listening to you right now because I even having this podcast. I've been, music video director for years, but this is really what my passion is right now, is trying to help the indie artists out there, trying to get to the next level. And my way of doing this is having people like you on the show. But I'm passionate about it as well, and I think we're all artists in some respect. And it's all about the art. It's all about creating. It's all about doing what you love. And if money comes from that, then great. But you would do it for free. And I think if you do something that you would do for free, eventually you're going to make a living at it. And that's a great message. And to all the indie artists out there, what Arl just said, I couldn't have put it better.
And I appreciate you, man. You have no idea how honored I am for you to have me on your platform, because I honestly, when I was coming up, I used to be like, another interview? We got to do an interview? Until I became more seasoned and understood that, listen, how else am I going to be heard? Nobody would hear my voice. Hearing a song, that's cool, but the personality behind it, the man behind it, I'm growing, continuing to evolve, and to have this opportunity to talk with you and to hopefully inspire indie artists or anybody out there listening, no matter what they're into, even if they're not into music, whatever their passion is, that's a blessing in itself, man.
I appreciate that. And the other thing I want to get back to real quick is my reputation. We talked about the Jeezy single that you helped co-write and produce. It's all about collaboration. That's another thing we like to talk about on the show is collaboration. Talk about the importance of that collaboration. And it to me, it furthers your career. It kind of keeps you more relevant if you collaborate, and especially if you collaborate outside of your own genre. I mean, am I overthinking that?
No, but what's funny is opportunities. It's almost like how you said, Mr. Kilpatrick was talking about, the secretary, like you would talk to the exec. Truthfully, this is a funny thing. Lil Duval, who's known as a comedian, came to me about doing records. He wanted a record that was originally a record that I recorded on Next, which is Pull Up. I was like, you know what, let's do it. Other people might have been like, oh, this is a comedian, he's playing with music, whatever. Me, no. I know he's passionate, he's talented. We've been around each other quite a few times. I said, cool. I made a call. We got Ty Dolla $ign on the record. It came out and did really well. He said he wanted to record more records, and he's getting better and better. He really has a respect for music. He was in band and things like that, so we kept recording. So he came to me and says, I want to do like an Alexander O'Neal type record. And I was like, now let me find something else that we could sample and flip and do something. So we ended up doing the SOS Band. And we had 7th Streeter on it first. And he had the record, and this is how opportunities work. Being a blessing to somebody, expecting nothing in return, they can bless you. He plays the record in a session with Jeezy. Jeezy loves the record and says, yo, let me have that. I'll keep you on it. And they were trying to get Rihanna on it, if I'm not mistaken. I love Demi on it, and it worked out. I literally didn't hear the finished record until it came out. But if you notice, I always slide some Minnesota love in there because that SOS Band record was produced by Jimmy and Terry. So all I do is go revisit the stuff I was listening to growing up and pay homage. So this is probably the second record that, I've taken from Jimmy and Terry. But it's funny because I just finished a third because I felt bad that Duval gave the record up. And I flipped another Jimmy and Terry record to replace that one for him that he's not going to get it till tomorrow. So I'm telling you that first. I literally felt bad that we went in and wrote and produced a new record and flipped. It was funny. It was a Sherelle record. We flipped the Sherelle record.
Wow.
So we're still going back to that Minnesota sound.
Yeah, the Minneapolis sound, man. You got to keep that alive. And, it's funny because, I saw a show the other day with The Time on it. And, I mean, I couldn't sit still, man. I love The Time. I love Prince. I love everything about the Minneapolis sound. And the fact that it's still out there and it's alive is just amazing to me. And, I also want to cover one thing because you have a single coming up called Another Night, which is an awesome track, by the way. What can we expect from that single? And it's about to be released, right?
Yeah, it is. It's funny because, again, you never know what opportunities will come from just doing things out of passion and out of love. We put out the EP for free, and a label from the UK hit me and wanted to partner with me on a deal. I was like, well, let's do a single. Let's just see how it goes. So we have the single done. It's a great situation. I've always wanted to continue to do music that makes me feel good. That even if I'm having a bad day, I'll start bobbing or, shaking my hands or stomping my feet, something, because music is therapeutic. So I wanted to give it a groove, you know what I'm saying? Just some fun, not dumbing it down because it's still arrangement and harmonies and it got, a little talk box in it, nice bass line. But I remember growing up, because I'm from Minneapolis, but I also lived in the Bay Area in Hayward, California. And I remember going across the Golden Gate Bridge, going to the racetrack with my dad. And he had the Benz with the Blah Punk stereo system that had the little neck that came out from the stereo. And they'd be playing music, and the window would be cracked, and I'm sitting in the back seat. And I wouldn't understand none of the words, but it just felt good. And I'd be sitting there shaking my little head. And I said to myself, I want to make music like that. I just want something that you can't help but move to. So that's what the Another Night is.
Baby, don't rush. Take your time. I want you to stay if it's alright. I want you here with me. You don't have to go. When the night is over and the sun comes up again, I want you here with me. Please don't leave.
Just another groove. I try to make anthems. I want to make music that has a positive impact. Yeah, I like the mannish stuff, and I still give some sexy, but I really wanted to reintroduce myself with another feel-good barbecue, skating rink, family reunion, wedding reception type groove where you can't help but get up.
Just so you know, my wife wanted me to tell you on the air that you and Next, your music was played at the clubs that she went to growing up, and she just, like I said, she's wanted me to tell you how much she really appreciated your music, and she really she said made her shake her booty. So you wanted me to tell you that on the air.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Tell her I said hello.
I will for sure. RL, I can't thank you enough for joining me on the show tonight, and I can't wait to see what you have coming out, and I wish you and your family nothing but the best. I think that you're an amazing person, you're an amazing artist and producer and writer, and I know that our indie artists out there listening to our show tonight appreciated this episode, and I can't thank you enough again. Thank you so much.
Well, no, I appreciate you, man, and tell your wife I said hello, and hopefully I'll be making some more music that she can shake her booty to on you, only you. I can't wait to meet you after this COVID thing, man. I thank you so much, bro.
Thank you, man. Take care, RL. Talk to you soon.
You too.